You know, I don't think it needs to be perfect, but it kind of does. These are called cone nuts. So I bought a couple packets of cone nuts. Is it the 10th? The 9th? It's a Wednesday. We got our handy dandy cone nuts. Up on the rooftop, click, click, click. Down came the chimney, old Saint Nick. Hi guys, I have been sick for the last week. About this weekend I was just bedridden, really ill, not having a good time. But we are back on it again today. It is Wednesday, the 18th. It was very far off from what I thought it was earlier. This past Friday, I went to Home Depot and I bought Unistrut. I did look at different resale stores. Actually, I only looked at one resale store. They didn't have any. So I just went to Home Depot and bought two 10-foot Unistrut pieces and recently spray painted them. And that is what I decided we were going to make a homemade roof rack out of. Excuse my sickness voice for the time being. Today I'm going to mount our homemade roof rack and start the installation process. I'm still not feeling great, and Friday, the day I went to Home Depot and got all the supplies and hardware, it was an all-day endeavor, and though it was an amazing day filled with productivity and being with my dad and us working on a project together, I was the worst I had been Saturday. I was so sick Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I'm still not 100%, so I'm trying to move slow but eager to get things done. I will show you guys a list of all the stuff that I bought, all the stuff that I didn't need, all the stuff I did need, and how we created this. So, here we go. Alright, so there is a handwritten list with the corresponding receipt from Home Depot. There is a line dividing the list because at the end of this video, you guys will see there was adjustments made because mistakes were made. Let's start off. We used the Unistrut. We used the cone nuts, but I did not need 3 packs of 5. I only needed 4 cone nuts. And cone nuts allow a bolt to screw into a Unistrut. I don't think I ever described their purpose, but that's what they're used for. And they're great, and I love saying cone nuts. I did not use the nylon spacers. In the future, we replaced them with metal ones. M8 hex bolts were important. We used those. Make sure they're long enough with whatever type of spacers and washers you are using. Mine ended up not being long enough. Had to go get more. Wet patch had nothing to do with the roof rack. It had everything to do with the cap I put over the wires, which you guys will see in a later video. I did use the spray paint on the Unistrut, and I did not use the hex bolts. I bought a 5-pack plus 3, so I had 8 total. Did not use those. What I did need later down in the future, I needed metal washers. Just got a ton of them, a ton of different sizes too. Those metal spacers I had mentioned earlier. We needed rubber washers. I made a mistake later in the video. You guys you'll see it. And silicone. You're gonna need silicone for this. That's what I got for you guys. My total was $161 for all the original pieces that I had bought. Roof racks can go anywhere between $200 to $500. It's just whatever you want to spend your time and money doing. I thought maybe I'd save $1 by doing a roof rack, but never had done it before. Mistakes were made. You use some things, you don't use some other things. So just to keep in mind, you may be wasting a couple dollars as well if you're making your own roof rack. The sole purpose of this roof rack is to mount the solar panel onto it. That way I did not have to mount the solar panel on the roof, creating more holes in the ceiling than need be. We first started by cutting the 10-foot length Unistrut into 6 feet and 4 feet. The 6-foot pieces of Unistrut did not line up perfectly with the factory threads on the roof of the van, so we ended up expanding some of the holes. Next, we screwed this 6-foot length unistrut onto our work table just so that it was nice and secure and wasn't going to move on us. We brought down the box that the solar panel was delivered in. That way it gave us a measurement where we wanted the 2 4-foot length of unistrut to be placed going across the van. From there, we used cone nuts and put them into place, bolted the 4-foot unistrut onto the 6-foot unistrut, and then proceeded to create a mount for the solar panel. After we had all the correct measurements and placements, I disassembled our homemade roof rack, spray painted it black, and here we are.
But yeah, after spending 5 weeks in Kansas with my family, the month of January, I dodged the sicknesses that everybody was getting. Somehow I dodged them. But on the very last week, a couple days before I was leaving, I got a little sore throat. And I was like, no, please don't let it be. Don't let it be true. Thus, here I am. I've been back for about a week. A week from yesterday. I wanted to go full swing on the van. So, here are some of the materials that I bought. I bought M8 bolts that fit into the factory thread on top of the van. I also got different sized washers. You'll see what these uses are for. And then these pieces of nylon spacers. They're 2 different sizes because they didn't have just the 3/8 inch. I wanted 2 per screw. I'm just gonna go like this so that I had enough space between the van and the roof rack. To know where everything was placed, we drilled small holes, just shallow enough to make a difference for when it was painted over, but not through the metal. This is marked with a 1. There are 2 marks over there, 3 marks there, 4 marks there, if you guys are able to see it. This was the factory piece that was on the van that fit right here. I ended up redoing the top of the van because it was rusted out. So this is all a spray paint job. And I put tape over these caps. But now the tape is, this was months ago. This was maybe 6 months ago I did the paint job on the roof. So the tape is stuck horribly to these factory pieces. So I just decided to leave it and take an Allen wrench to it to get them out. But this piece is important, or at least to me it's important, because there's a rubber piece that comes off that I'll just place back right on there. Then we'll put the 1/2 inch nylon spacer and then the 3/8 inch.
What I should have done was place a metal washer in between the rubber washer and nylon spacer that was equal size to the rubber washer.
This washer isn't big enough. We're going to need one of those big washers. You're also going to need one of these larger washers. This hole is warped because we had to extend it so that the unistrut piece would fit. Sweet. That's not going anywhere. Cool. All right, now I'm gonna do the other side. Hey, it's not going anywhere either. See? Now that that part's over, we have these pieces that go across like that. Also have dots on them to tell me where they are supposed to go. So this matches with one. It has one indent, and on this side it has two little indents. So I know that this one goes closest to the windshield and matches up over here. Same thing on this one. This one has 3 indentations, and this one has 4 indentations. So that means it goes in the back, like so. And then I have measurements here for how much overhang between the bars that go across and to the front. It's 4 1/4 inch. My dad gave me this handy dandy level ruler to bring with me when I go to stores and stuff. Okay, so it needs to be 4 1/4 inch here. So this is way off. Okay. That's where our handy dandy cone nuts come in play. I just think the name for these are hilarious. Wait, this is a bag I haven't opened yet. Let me get a different bag. Let go in here. Slide on in. Okay. That sits like right about there. And put one on the other side. Okay. And then put these guys. These guys in there. That's how that'll sit. Let me go back to my reference photo. Triple check. That's how it's supposed to be. And just like triple check that. That's 4 1/2, sir. You know, I don't think it needs to be perfect, but it kind of does. It kind of does need to be perfect. Okay. That's 4 1/4 on this side. Let me do the other side. Do 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 do. Smells like somebody's burning wood. Alright, I'm going to tighten this one. And what should happen with these cone nuts is that when I tighten it, it should lock up underneath here. Underneath the lip. Can I reach this one? Never reach while you're on a ladder. Never reach while you're on a ladder. Now it's time to measure out 34 7/8 inches. Right about there. It would be so much easier if I could just crawl up across the roof and put a piece where I need to over there. But nope, getting down the ladder. Back up on the ladder behind you that you don't see. Okay. Just a little off. 34 7/8, baby. That's what we're looking for. No, I need her remeasure. I mean, pennies and dimes, you know what I'm saying? I'm ready to lock it down. It's turned around. We're golden, baby. All right, let me do the other side. All right, folks. That concludes my roof rack for right now. I do have another piece to set up the solar system, but I'll put that in a different video because now I am going to work on the installation of the insulation. So nice. Let's get to it. I wanted to come back on here and re-explain what my dad and I did to adjust the roof rack. So at first we had 2 nylon spacers in place of this metal spacer here. And we do have a rubber washer underneath this large washer and another smaller washer here because the hole was too large. This metal piece would have fit right through the hole. So that's why we have this smaller washer. And if you can see, I know the lighting's not that great. This washer has to be larger than the rubber washer on the bottom because when the pressure is focused on the center, the outsides kind of squish out. We did some leveling with the homemade roof rack because the front tipped down and then the back was much higher. So back here there is a smaller metal spacer to ensure a nice, fairly level roof rack. We just raised this side up a little bit to make it more level. That's really all. And then we siliconed it on the bottom so there was no leaks. There was a leak coming from this back one with the 2 nylon spacers because I had used the factory rubber washer, but the pressure from the center was causing it to squish out and water got through.
Since adjusting the roof rack, I've had no more leaks. I do notice a little whistle on the highway once I go up a certain speed, but I hope that this helps somebody, maybe answer some questions. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, but really just thankful for you being here, taking the time to watch this.